welcome to A Game for Your Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about The Evil Within. So The Evil Within is the most recent series by the master himself, Shinji Mikami, the guy behind Resident Evil. And after he left Capcom, he opened up Tango Game Studios, and this is the first game that was released by the studios and was published by Bethesda. So let's jump right in. The story is actually this game's biggest weak spot. The story just starts out pretty good and just the nice confusing horror that I like, but then by the end it's just so way confusing and convoluted that I have no clue what's going on. And yet again, this was the biggest weak spot of the game. So it all starts out when Detective Sebastian Castellanos and his partners Joseph and Kidman have to go and check out this recent string of this mass murder at the Beacon Mental Hospital. And when we get there, things aren't as they seem, and something happens, which leads them on this series of events, which is The Evil Within. And the whole time you're going through this world that's constantly changing, creepy things are happening, and there's zombies all over, and just, usual scary horror things are going on. Just it keeps you invested. Actually, I was thoroughly invested in this story, but like I said, by the end, it gets so complicated and convoluting, and once it starts explaining things, it makes sense, but also at the same time it didn't. By the end of the game, I had to look it up on Wikipedia to be like, what just happened? And that's never a good thing. And another thing this story didn't do all too well is that the characters are kind of one-dimensional. I mean, most of the time, they're just kind of like, oh, I don't really know what's going on. It's like, yeah, me either. Do you have any idea? And it's like, nope, I don't. And that's it. The bad guy, Ruvik, he's probably has the most layers to him, but yet again, he's pretty straightforward. It's just, he was this guy who wants revenge for this event that happened, and things like that. And it's just super complicated and convoluted, but yet again, he's the only one that really has that much of a character. Everyone else, like I said, is pretty straightforward and doesn't really have all that much. They don't develop at all, and it's kind of whatever. But like most horror experiences, by the end of the game, you're still trying to put all the pieces together. You're like, wait a minute, there was something maybe I missed, and so you're trying to piece it all together, which was fun. I enjoyed piecing it together by the end, but like I said, it was just so convoluted and confusing that I didn't feel like I had all the pieces there. But then the second time through, this most recent playthrough, I knew what was going on, so it was far easier for me to pick up on things and be like, oh, okay, cool, that makes a little bit more sense. But for a first time through, it was really confusing and really weird. But by the end, you're going to have a fun, scary experience that's super gory, and the monsters you encounter are going to be super awesome and great. But the thing that makes this game worth your time is actually the gameplay. So the gameplay of Evil Within follows a third-person survival horror experience, similar to Resident Evil 4. If you want something easy to compare this game to, gameplay-wise, I'd heavily say Resident Evil 4. They play very similarly, but the Evil Within just has a couple of things that make it quite unique to itself. So the world and the horrific sequences you go through are filled with terrifying creatures, and most of the time there are these things called the Haunted, which are kind of zombified humans that are covered in barbed wire and gore. And they're actually pretty nasty. So the world's inhabited by these guys, and you have to use your limited resources or stealth to go through and take these out and get from point A to point B. All the meanwhile trying to avoid horrible deaths, and this game has plenty of horrible deaths, and you're going to die a lot. This game is actually quite difficult. I played on the easy difficult and still managed to die like 30-something times by the end. If you're playing on medium or hard, it's going to be far more deaths than that, and it's nice because it actually tells you at the end of the game. It's like, yeah, you died this many times. So that was cool and unique to see that they were actually keeping track of how many times you died. Because yeah, you're going to die a lot. It is quite a tricky game, and resources are very limited. And the gameplay is actually really, I had the most fun with. This game was so, like, everything was just fresh and unique for me. I could never guess what was coming next. It always just kept me on my toes, and I was like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next, because things could just change, or a new enemy would be introduced at any time, and you'd have to change what your tactics. Usually, you could go in with more guns out, but then also you have to do stealth because the situation more calls for it, because you don't have the resources or the firepower to take on the more powerful enemies at the time. And the worlds and the scenarios throw you into it's actually really fun because you can kind of explore a little bit to find the upgrade points, which is called green gel, which kind of like brains in a jar, and you use these to upgrade your abilities. And so exploring the world to find all these gels and extra resources was fun, and it was scary and intimidating like most horror games, but you were rewarded for exploring unknown areas or kind of a little bit off the beaten path. With the combat being a lot of the main focus, kind of action-oriented horror, yet again, like Resident Evil 4, the combat was a little tricky at first. Your aiming is really weird. Like I said, resources are very limited, so you have to pick your shots very carefully. And yet again, running away is always an option, and I liked how this game does that. It puts you in situations where you're like, I can't do anything, I just have to run. The thing that really helps this is the enemy AI does a great job of trying to be a little bit more than just kind of slow, shambling zombies. They actually move and kind of do different tactics to stop you from being so efficient. Some of them will use their arms to block headshots, or some will do like little juke moves, and others are coming right at you, full force, and it's intimidating and scary, and it's great, because you have to kind of change your tactics and pick your shots very carefully. The major highlight of this game's combat is they now introduce the Agony Crossbow, which is just a crossbow that you can craft different types of harpoons to do. There's like a shock bolt, an explosive bolt, a freeze bolt, and just a normal harpoon bolt. And it was really fun because this added kind of a different thing to variety. It could kind of change your tactics a little bit and maybe give you a little bit further of an edge in combat. And I really liked this mechanic. It was a cool mechanic that I felt was pretty unique to this game. But the one thing I really love the most about this game is the enemy design. The enemy design is so incredible. Each of the kind of like sub-bosses were very well designed. Each new one was really creepy and intimidating, and you're like, at some point I'm going to have to fight this thing. I know I'm not going to be ready for it. But when it does come, you feel a little bit more prepared for it, but they just are so unpredictable and things like that, and it's just really fun and exciting. And each one, like I said, it was just the design was incredible. They were so gross and creepy. But my favorite by far was the Keeper, or Safehead. He was so creepy and intimidating. His presence was just very well known when he was around, and it was so scary. And his boss fight was my favorite part of the whole game. It was so much fun, and it was so scary and just so tense, and it was exciting and so thrilling. And I'd absolutely even recommend getting this game just so you can experience this boss fight, because I thought it was so great and well designed, and the enemy himself was just so creepy. Right here. Oh no! Oh no! Push X faster! Push X faster! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Push X faster! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my gosh! I did it! I can't believe I did it! But with a lot of these different enemies with cool designs, not all of them are gonna have very good boss fights. And that was my biggest complaint with these, is because they would have such a cool design, but the boss fight would just kind of be you running around and shooting at them as much as you can, and you'd burn through a lot of ammo, but yes, it would reward you with a lot of green gel. But it just wasn't all that exciting boss fight compared to like the Keeper or the Scary Nail Lady. I don't know her name, but Scary Nail Lady. And so just things like that, where those boss fights were unique and stood out. But there was other ones that, for example, one of them I didn't even remember doing because it was just running around the room and shooting them as much as I could. And so it was pretty forgettable, and I couldn't even remember when I got back to that part on my playthrough. I've said some stuff about this green gel, but I'll go a little bit more into depth of it right here. So you use the green gel as your upgrade points. At certain points, you'll end up in this hospital where there's this shock therapy chair that you use to upgrade your character, and you use this green gel to allocate points to certain attributes of your weapons, your storage, your health, things like that. And I highly recommend working on your accuracy. It seems silly, but like a 0.2 to 5 degree difference in your accuracy is going to help a lot. And I highly recommend delving into the system and really checking it out, because there's lots of cool things that may not seem significant, but they end up being significant. And that was the thing I liked. It's a lot of the times I was bouncing back and forth trying to decide which upgrade I wanted, because they all seemed really helpful and different and just was really nice, and I liked this system a lot. All of this comes together with the different set pieces in the game and your encounters that you're going to have with different enemies. All of it just comes together for a great survival horror experience that I really, really enjoyed. Yet again, harkening back to Resident Evil 4 with that kind of more action-oriented horror experience that's still so enjoyable. So graphically and technically there are a couple of hiccups, but my first thing, I'll start with the graphics. The graphics are actually pretty good. They hold up pretty well to this day. I think the game came out in like 2014, so it's been like about 6 years, and it still holds up good. But the thing I like the most about the graphics is that it has kind of like a film grain to it, and so it kind of just looks really grainy, but it's supposed to. And another thing is the aspect ratio. People are really mixed about the aspect ratio. When you start the game, it has like these black bars on the top or bottom like this, and so you can only see like this much of the screen. And some people really had some complaints with that, but I actually really liked it. I thought it was cool and added kind of more of a cinematic feel to the game. Yet again, they have an option that you can turn it off, so if you don't like that at all, you can absolutely turn that off, and that is entirely up to you. But the varied environments that you go throughout the game are really great. They're well detailed, and they all look really, really good. There's lots of gore and different scary elements all around, and it just creates really great environments for this game. And with the different character models that actually look really well. Like I said, the haunted enemies are covered in gore, and they're really gross, and some of them are just plain down disturbing, just because this game looks really, really good, and I give them major props to that, because it manages to scare you, even just like the design. For one experience I had, I remember there was this one zombie who was coming at me with like a knife, and that thing was terrifying. That was like the moment I was like, oh wow, this is a scary game. And it was really cool and just a really memorable experience, because it looks really good and was really intimidating in the character design. And this game is very gory and very bloody. There is blood and guts all over, and when you shoot an enemy, his head like explodes. There's blood all over the walls, or you can shoot an enemy and like half his face gets blown off, and it's just super gross and gory, and just the environments yet again enhance this grossness and gore. And yet again, it looks really good because these graphics are well done, and it's sometimes really, really gross. It was really cool and kind of satisfying actually, just because of how gross and cool it looked. Alright. Getting surrounded here. Ew, lady. So gross. I love it. So technically, this is actually where I had a lot of my problems. My biggest problem is sometimes like the models would interact really weird with the world. Like one time I had one of my partners just literally walk right through my model. Or if there's like a takedown animation going on in a tight hallway or tight space, sometimes your characters would just like clip through the walls. And another time I had, this was actually really silly, But I killed the guy and his body like stretched out. I don't know what was going on. It was the weirdest thing ever, but it was kind of hysterical, but kind of really just yet again ruins the presentation, kind of takes me out of the experience. Something that might bother other people didn't bother me all that much, but there was a lot of texture popping in the cutscenes, like when the camera would cut, the texture would load and you could see it. It was pretty obvious. Yeah, again, didn't bother me all that much, but yet ruined the presentation a little bit. And some people are super picky about that, so that is just something to be very aware of, as that does happen fairly often. So in the end, The Evil Within is a really fun experience. It's absolutely not perfect, not even close. The story gets far too convoluted and confusing at the end. Like I said, I had to look it up on Wikipedia. That's not a good thing. But then with the myriad of technical issues, like I said, a lot of the times with the character models interacting really weird with the environment and like that weird stretch thing, yes, there is some problems and the texture pop in if you're worried about that. But overall, it's a fun horror experience. Like I said, with the amazing gameplay that's really thrilling and stays fresh the whole time with your different set pieces and new enemy types. And then with the gross, disgusting character designs, like with the major monsters, those were really gross and creative, and it was really unique, and just makes this experience that much more worth it. With the graphics that are cool, with the nice film grain and the really disgusting gore, and just the nice, really well-built worlds that actually give you a lot of variety. Each one is very different from the other ones, and the one when you revisit ones, you're like, oh, cool, I remember this place. Things like that really just enhance this experience a little bit more. So if you're looking for a good, fun horror experience, I would recommend Evil Within. And if you've never played a horror game before, I think this is a fantastic step into the genre. And again, not straight up horror. It's got a lot of action in it. But the action is fun and exciting. It just gives it a good balance. Yet again, I think of Resident Evil 4. It's a great comparison because, I mean, like I said, it's made by Shinji Mikami. They're made by the same person. So yeah, you're going to see the parallels. And they're absolutely prevalent. And being compared to Resident Evil 4 is not a bad thing at all. So yes, I recommend Evil Within to those for looking at a fun horror experience. It's a good 10 to 12 hour adventure. And this game's probably not all that expensive anymore. So now would be a great time to get it. It's a really fun game that I had a lot of time with, and I'd absolutely recommend you at least give it a try and see if you like it. So that's my review for The Evil Within. I hope you enjoyed watching me play it. If you haven't played it, go and check it out. I'll put a link right there. And let's see. Head out and check me out on Twitch. I've been playing Portal recently. At the time of recording this, I don't know where I'll be at when I actually post this. I don't know when I'm going to actually post this video. But good stuff. Head over and check out my Twitch. I'm streaming pretty consistently, about 3 times a week. My schedule's there if you want to go check that out. And head over to my website at GameForYourThoughts.com to check out my written game reviews. And yes, stay tuned for what's coming next. I'm currently playing Cuphead right now, so go over and check out Cuphead. I really like that game, and it's been very rage-inducing. So if you want to see me get mad, go check out Cuphead. Other than that, everything's been really great. So thank you so much for all your support, and we'll catch you next time on A Game for Your Thoughts.